All right, so for the most part, this is only for, a select number of people that want to make those punch loop embroidery. I don't seem to have any of the punch loop around, but basically, this is for anybody that likes those carpet designs that you might see on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or anything like that, where they take the yarn, it goes through the shaft of this guy, and then you end up punching it into basically monk's cloth or some cloth. Anyways, I'm a teacher, so cash can definitely be tight, especially as an art teacher. So I decided to make these myself instead of paying $6 a piece. I still ended up buying one of them just so I had a template of how large these guys were. But I mean, and it would help to have one on hand, but I mean, honestly, if you're doing this just for yourself, it's not worth it. But so anyways, assuming that you're a teacher and that you want to go through with this, you're going to basically start with this guy. This guy is probably the most important part, and it's not really that expensive. You can get this on Amazon. I'll probably put a link to it in the description here. But this is just a 5mm brass tube, and you can see that it's pretty thin. The wall is 0.5 millimeters, so that's 5mm outside, 0.5 inside, and this ends up being a 300 mil length. If you can get them longer, that's great, but you know, this is what I had to work with. I think Amazon, when I'm buying these, they sell them in packs of 3. Anyways, all that you're going to do is you're going to cut this into 60mm lengths, so it ends up being this long. So you're basically going to get 5 of those out of this, and the type of tool that you're using, let me grab it. It's just one of these pipe cutters. So these pipe cutters are pretty straightforward. Basically all that it is you unscrew this, you put the pipe in it, and then you just start progressively screwing this down, and you'll turn this guy and it just cuts it off. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on how to do that. But basically you're just going to cut it into 5 lengths that are 60 mil long. So next up, you might have printed this on your printer, no big deal. You're just going to print it so it's top side down, so basically the flat side is going to go down, and then this fluted side is going to point up. You shouldn't need any supports. If you're feeling like your printer doesn't stick, or if your prints don't stick that well, I'd print a raft, but honestly I've never needed to. I don't really need supports for this. It's pretty easy. But in any case, this is the first file that you're going to print. This is actually the shaft for it, and it has a pretty good feel. I actually prefer this one to the actual one that's made out of wood. But you're also going to want to print this jig. It makes your life so much easier. I've done this without the jig, and it's a lot more complicated. This jig just makes my life so much easier. So basically all that you're going to do is you're going to take your 60 mil length, and you're going to put it in basically the top. You're going to stop it right here, and you're going to notice that one end is closer than the other end. You want the closer end to be your stop point. You don't want it to be the longer end. Anyways, then what you're going to do is you're going to end up getting a drill bit. I can't remember the size on this. It might have been a 1/4 inch. I'm pretty sure it was 1/4 inch. I tried to make it all pretty easy, so I don't remember what that is in millimeters, maybe like 3 or 4 mil. But anyways, you're just going to drill this hole. The nice part about this jig is when I'm doing this, I hold both ends of it. I'll put this in a vise or in a clamp, and I'll hold both ends of it so that it's not moving. But since there's a hole already in it, and it's a good way down, like you can see that it's towards the end that there's not a lot. If you're going this way with your drill bit, it makes it so much easier. You don't mess up, and it puts that hole really nice and square in your tube. So from there, basically what you're going to do is you'll end up with one like this that has a little tiny hole in it. Perfect, you got plenty of length here. Next part you're going to notice on the jig is that you got this hole that starts down here and it ends up here. So I have a 1-inch belt sander. It makes my life pretty easy, but you can do this with sandpaper. Anyways, you're going to take this guy and you are just going to feed it through. Again, you might need to take a drill bit and just clean this out a little bit. In fact, I think mine's getting a little tight here. You want it to be tight. You don't want it to be super loose. Tight means that it'll hold it for you. But anyways, you're just going to put it through like this. So if you notice, there's this end that has the hole that's closer to the bottom of the edge. So when I go to my belt sander, I'm trying to make sure that this hole is pointing directly up from here. And then when I rotate it 90 degrees, that hole should now be 90 degrees pointing towards me when I hit it on the sander. I have little marks on my sander that have straight lines, so I know that this is straight because I can see this edge, and I'm just trying to straighten that. If you, for whatever reason, let's say that this is sandpaper, it's just another 3D printed part, but if you only have sandpaper at your disposal, you can actually put this down like this and just feed it up a little bit, and just slowly and progressively keep feeding your pipe down as you're pulling it when you sand it, and then just move it a little bit, pull it, sand it, and everything else. When you're done, it should look like this. I think I have this set up as 20 degrees, so if you have some other way of sanding these guys, 20 degrees is kind of what I went for. I think originally I was trying 30. It just wasn't working. But what you want is you want this top part to be nice and rounded. I usually stop just a little bit when it's just a little squared, and then just round it over with sandpaper. But that hole should end up being something that if you're looking at the side that is cut, you should see straight through it. If you have a little bit of this that's above it, you probably just need to keep sanding. And if it's to the very tip, it's not gonna hold it. So you kind of want that happy medium. Mine is a little closer towards the bottom, and that's what I prefer. And then you have the last step. So this guy is specifically designed the way that I wanted it to. So basically, I still need to drill these guys out, but once I do that, I'm gonna sink this guy, and it's actually gonna sit in, I think it's 20 mil, so you end up having about 40 mil that's out. I JB weld these guys. You could probably get away with super glue and it'd be perfectly fine. I JB weld them because I don't ever plan on pulling them out. The nice part about this shaft is the ones that you get from Amazon, it's literally just a hole that's drilled all the way down. They put this tube in and then they stop it, which means that you end up getting this little bit of shoulder that your yarn gets caught on all the time, especially if they didn't deburr it or if they didn't sand out the center of this thing. And I find that's a real pain in the butt. So when I printed this, I actually have a shoulder that this guy sits up to, and it should go directly from the middle here to this. Not only that, this opening is a little wider, and it tapers down just a little bit by the time that it gets here. So that's kind of one of the nice things. But still, nonetheless, when I put this guy in, I'll take one of these needle files, and it's just a round, and I'll end up running it through the center and sanding it, just so that if I have any extra little bit, I can actually sand these guys down so it ends up being a really nice smooth transition. Like I said, when I do this with the 3 of these guys, I'll get 15 of the brass pieces, and then I just end up printing 15 of these guys. My classes are about 30 people. It's a little bit more than 30 people, but yeah, I end up making 15 of these guys at a time. It cost me $10 for the brass pipe, and then, you know, call it $20 for a complete roll of printer filament, which you definitely won't go through. And then this little tiny jig, honestly, that's nothing. It prints in like 45 minutes or something like that. I think that's even without like crazy fast settings or anything like that, but prints pretty quick. I don't even have that much of an infill on it. If you're really nervous about it, I would, you know, print it a little higher. I don't remember if I printed this at 20% or 40%. I think I do most of my prints at 40%, especially these guys. I want them to be just a little bit more durable than the 20%ers. But yeah, this is a really quick way to make these for your classroom, and it won't break the bank. I mean, basically $20 for, you know, 6 of these pipes ends up being $30 for the classroom. Like I said, if you buy a roll of filament, that's $20. It should get you all 30 of the stands and the jig. Don't feel bad too. I've had a couple of these jigs go bad on me, so when I am drilling these guys, sometimes what'll happen is when I have this guy in here, my bit will move around a little bit, and since it's just plastic and it's heating it up as the drill bit is moving around, it kind of oblongs the hole. So I mean, honestly, if you're going to be doing several of these, I'd probably print, you know, 2 or 3 of these jigs just to be safe. It's not even more for this part, it's mostly for the drilling down. But anyways, hope that you guys like that. I thought that it'd be really nice to have an explanation. I know plenty of people, you know, put their STL files up and they don't really do a whole lot of explanation. I wanted you guys to actually see what I was doing with this and what it can be used for, especially for those craft people out there. All right, have a great one, guys.